Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, chapters 21 and 22, read aloud by Mrs. Chavez. Vocabulary: acrid, a foul and strong taste or smell. Chapter 21. Winnie pulled her little rocking chair up to her bedroom window and sat down. The rocking chair had been given to her when she was very small, but she still squeezed into it sometimes when no one was looking, because the rocking chair made her almost remember something pleasant, something soothing that would never quite come up to the surface of her mind, and tonight she wanted to be soothed. The constable had brought her home. They had seized her at once, flinging the gate open and swooping down on her, her mother weeping, her father speechless, hugging her to him, her grandmother babbling with excitement. There was a painful pause when the constable told them she had gone away of her own free will. But it only lasted a moment. They would not believe it, and her grandmother said it was the elves. We heard them. They must have bewitched her. And so they had bore her into the house, and after she had taken the bath they insisted upon, they fed and petted her and refused, with little laughs and murmurs, to accept her answers to their questions. She had gone away with the Tucks because, well, she wanted to. The Tucks had been very kind to her, had given her flapjacks, taken her fishing. The Tucks were good and gentle people. All this would have been swept away in any case, however, this good impression of her friends which she was trying to create when she told them. What had happened to the man in the yellow suit? Had they really given him the wood in exchange for finding her? They had. Well, perhaps he wouldn't want it now. May had hit him with the shotgun. He was very sick. They received this news with mingled hope and horror, and her father said, "I suppose the wood will be ours again if the man should. That is, if he doesn't." "You mean if he dies?" Winnie had said flatly, and they sat back shocked. Soon after they put her to bed with many kisses, but they peered at her anxiously over their shoulders as they tiptoed out of her bedroom, as if they sensed that she was different now from what she had been before, as if some part of her had slipped away. Well, thought Winnie, crossing her arms on the windowsill, she was different. Things had happened to her that were hers alone and had nothing to do with them. It was the first time, and no amount of telling about it could help them understand or share what she felt. It was satisfying and lonely, both at once. She rocked, gazing out at the twilight, and the soothing feeling came reliably into her bones. That feeling, it tied her to them, to her mother, her father, her grandmother, with strong threads, too ancient and precious to be broken. But there were new threads now, tugging in insistence, which tied her just as firmly to the Tucks. Winnie watched the sky slide into blackness over the wood outside her window. There was not the least hint of a breeze to soften the heavy August night. And then over the treetops on the faraway horizon there was a flash of white, heat lightning. Again and again it throbbed without a sound. It was like pain, she thought, and suddenly she longed for a thunderstorm. She cradled her head in her arms and closed her eyes. At once the image of the man in the yellow suit rose up. She could see him again, sprawled motionless on the sun-blanched grass. "He can't die," she whispered, thinking of May. He mustn't. And then she considered his plans for the water in the spring, and the Tuck's voice saying they'd all come running like pigs to slops. And she found herself thinking, if it is true about the spring, then he has to die. He must. And that's why she did it. Then she heard hoofbeats on the road below, a horse hurrying into the village, and not long after there were footsteps and a knocking on the door. Winnie crept out of her room and crouched in the shadows at the top of the stairs. It was the constable. She heard him saying, "So that's that, Mr. Foster. We can't press no kidnapping charges, since your little girl claims there wasn't no kidnapping. But it doesn't matter now anyway. The doc just got back a few minutes ago. That feller, the one you sold your land to, he's dead." There was a pause, and the murmur of other voices, then a match striking, the acrid smell of fresh cigar smoke. "Yep, she got him a good one all right. He never even come to. So it's an open and shut case, since I seen her do it. Eyewitness. No question about it. They'll hang her for sure." Winnie went back to her room and climbed into bed. She lay in the dark, propped up on the windows, and stared at the lighter square of her window, at the heat lightning throbbing. It was like pain. She thought again, a dull pain on the fringes of the sky. May had killed the man in the yellow suit, and she had meant to kill him. Winnie had killed a wasp once, in fear and anger, just in time to spare herself a stinging. She had slammed at the wasp with a heavy book and killed it, and then, seeing its body broken, the thin wings stilled, she had wished it were alive again. She had wept for that wasp. Was May weeping now for the man in the yellow suit? In spite of her wish to spare the world, did she wish he were alive again? There was no way of knowing. But May had done what she thought she had to do. Winnie closed her eyes to shut out the silent pulsing of the lightning. Now she would have to do something. She had no idea what, but something. Maytuck must not go to the gallows. Chapter 22. Next morning, Winnie went out to the fence directly after breakfast. It was the hottest day yet, so heavy that the slightest exertion brought on a flood of precipitation and exhaustion in the joints. 2 days before, they would have insisted that she stay indoors, but now. This morning they were careful with her, a little gingerly, as if she were an egg. She had said, "I'm going outside now," and they had said, "All right, but come in if it gets too hot, won't you, dear?" And she had answered, "Yes." The earth, where it was worn bald under the gate, was cracked and hard as rock, a lifeless tan color, and the road was an aisle of brilliant velvet dust. Winnie leaned against the fence, her hands gripping the warm metal of the bars, and thought about May, behind another set of bars in the jailhouse. And then, lifting her head, she saw the toad. It was squatting where she had seen it first, across the road. "Hello," she said, very glad to see it. The toad did not much as flick a muscle or blink an eye. It looked dried out today, parched. "It's thirsty," said Winnie to herself. No wonder, on a day like this. She left the fence and went back into the cottage. "Granny, can I have some water in a dish? There's a toad out front that looks as if he's just about to die of thirst." "A toad?" said her grandmother, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "Nasty things, toads." "Not this one," said Winnie. "This one is always out there, and I like him. Can I give him a drink of water?" "Toads don't drink water, Winifred. It wouldn't do him any good." "They don't drink water at all?" "No. They take it in through their skins, like a sponge, when it rains." "But it hasn't rained in forever," said Winnie, alarmed. "I could sprinkle some water in him, couldn't I? That would help, wouldn't it?" "Well, I suppose so," said her grandmother. "Where is he? In the yard?" "No," said Winnie. "He's across the road." "I'll come with you then. I don't want you leaving the yard alone." But when they came out of the fence, Winnie balancing a small bowl of water with enormous care, the toad was gone. "Well, he must be all right," said her grandmother, "if he could hop off." With mingled disappointment and relief, Winnie tipped the water into a cracked earth at the gate. It was sucked in immediately, and the wet brown stain it left behind paled and vanished almost as quickly. "I never saw such heat in all my life," said Winnie's grandmother, dabbing uselessly at her neck with a handkerchief. "Don't stay out here much longer." "I won't," said Winnie, and was left alone once more. She sat down on the grass and sighed. May. What could she do to set May free? She closed her eyes against the glaring light and watched a little dizzily as brilliant patterns of red and orange danced inside her eyelids. And then, miraculously, Jessie was there, crouching just on the other side of the fence. "Winnie," he hissed, "you sleeping?" "Oh, Jessie." Her eyes flew open and she reached through the fence to grasp his hand. "I'm so glad to see you. What can we do? We have to get her out." "Miles got a plan, but I don't see how it can work," said Jessie, speaking quickly, his voice almost a whisper. "He knows a lot about carpeting. He says he can take Ma's window frame right straight out of the wall, bars and all, and she can climb through. We're going to try tonight when it gets dark. Only trouble is that constable keeps watching her every minute. He's so darn proud of having a prisoner in that jail of his. We've been down to see her. She's all right, but even if she can climb through the window, he'll come after her as soon as he sees she's gone. Seems to me he'll notice right off. That don't give us much time to get away, but we got to try. There ain't no other way. Anyhow, I come to say goodbye. We won't be able to come back here for a long, long time, Winnie. If we get away, I mean. They'll be looking for Ma." "Winnie, listen. I won't see you again, not for ages. Look now, here's a bottle of water from the spring. You keep it, and then no matter where you are, when you're 17, Winnie, you can drink it, and then come find us. We'll leave directions somehow. Winnie, please say you will." He pressed the little bottle into her hands, and Winnie took it, closing her fingers over it. "Jessie, wait," she whispered breathlessly. For all at once she had the answer. "I can't help. When your mother climbs out the window, I'll climb in and take her place. I can wrap myself up in her blanket, and when the constable looks in, he won't be able to tell the difference. Not in the dark. I can hump up and look a lot bigger. Miles can even put the window back. That would give you time to get away. You have at least till morning." Jesse squinted at her, and then he said, "Yep, you know it might work. It might just make the difference. But I don't know, as Pa's going to want you taking any risk. I mean, what'll they say to you after, when they find out?" "I don't know," said Winnie, "but it doesn't matter. Tell your father I want to help. I have to help. If it wasn't for me, there wouldn't have been any trouble in the first place. Tell him I have to." "Well, all right. Can you get out after dark?" "Yes," said Winnie. "Then at midnight, Winnie, I'll be waiting for you right here at midnight." "Winifred," an anxious voice came from the cottage. "Who's that you're talking to?" Winnie stood up and turned to answer. "It's just a boy, Granny. I'll be in a minute." When she turned around again, Jessie was gone. Winnie clenched the little bottle in her hands and tried to control the rising excitement that made her breath catch. At midnight, she would make a difference in the world. Questions. The Fosters sense Winnie is different. Is she different? And why? 2. Jessie gives Winnie some magic water in a bottle and tells her to drink it when she is 17. Do you think she will do it? 3. What do you predict will happen next?